Hey everyone, it's Tiger with One Line of Code, and let's get started talking about Riome, our very first project. Um, I'm really excited about this one. It's going to be a pretty fun project. It's going to be a road trip app, plus website, mobile app, API, basically everything involved there. So the plan is to start out building an API. We're going to be building in C Sharp, and we'll build out a pretty large API to handle all kinds of logins, user authentication, some hookups to databases, of course, and then infrastructure for making external calls to some turn-by-turn navigation type applications and points of interest applications, some separate parties that we'll have to make connections to. From there, and probably even as long as we're going there, we'll have to build some of the website for that just to kind of look and see and test. And then at the very end, we'll get into the mobile app. Website, I haven't really decided on what it's going to be built in yet. I'm thinking potentially Blazor WebAssembly, just because of my background in C Sharp, but I may end up doing it in React. It just kind of depends on what the tech is doing at that time. Blazor, while it looks to be a little bit on the downswing, I heard some recent news that they may be kind of sneakily coming out with some new updates for next year. And if that is going to show up, I think that'll make some of the mobile app building and some of my coding later on a little bit easier. So I'd like to get into Blazor, but we'll see what happens. I don't need to know right now. I just need to get to, it's one of those two languages, so we'll get there. The mobile app at this point is planned for React Native, which is why maybe the website in React would be a little smart. But again, if Blazor kind of does really push their MAUI stuff, we may end up going that route and just seeing what we can do there. But at this point, I'm fairly confident the app is going to be React Native. 6 months to 1 year timeline. If you remember, we're not scripted very much, so I'll be working with tech that I don't really know very well. Some of it I know in and out, up and down, backwards and forwards, and some of it I'll be Googling literally every move that I make to try to get everything figured out. And that's why we have such a wide spread of how long this could potentially take. It's also just depends on what kind of time I can get outside of work to build these and what kind of interest we have, and if people want me to slow down or speed up, depending on who cares to even watch these kind of things. I wanted to touch on just a little bit more on the focus currently where I'm at with what I want to do here. And the idea is not, I wouldn't consider these training videos. If you're coming into this expecting to learn how to code, it's probably not the case. The thought here is that you fairly know how to code already. This is more just showing you what a full project is going to look like at, I guess, small to medium-sized company. If you're getting into, your Google or your Fang type projects, those are going to be on a whole different level than this. The expectation of Riome is that while I don't expect any more than 5 to 10 people to be using this app, we should be able to handle 15,000 or so at a given moment. We should be able to handle way more than that for requests, but of course with database and everything going on, I think we can safely handle 15 to 20,000 requests per second on what we're going to be building here. I've never really stretched further than that. But the skeletal structure that I'm building here should be able to handle that and or better. If you need more than that, you maybe need to optimize here and there. If you need less than that, you can cut more corners. It's all about balance, so the thought of this project, this whole channel is really going to be balancing your timelines at work. Your how long can you get this coded versus how efficient do you need it to be? Should you spend 6 hours saving 0.1 milliseconds or even 10 are you going to save 100 milliseconds? Should you spend that 5 hours to save 100 milliseconds at every request? Yes or no? That'll be up to you guys on what you kind of need to do at those decisions. If I'm very aware that I'm cutting a corner or doing something in not the most efficient way, I'll let you know. But there's no way that I know every single possibility of what's going to come up. So the plan here is to build something that works and that gets all the way done, that can handle, like I said, 10 to 15,000, well, 15 to 20,000 people all at once without any kind of slog or low down or, you know, any issues on the site whatsoever. To get into the app a little bit more, I said it's a road trip application. The idea is turn-by-turn navigation with road trip planning. I've seen a lot of road trip planning apps, and I really like the web-based ones. It's really hard to do in mobile app, which I understand, but I haven't found a road trip planning app that had really good turn-by-turn yet. I've found really good turn-by-turn apps that work amazingly, but they either don't even have a web component, and trying to plan on their web on the mobile app is ridiculous, or they do have a website and it doesn't have the, you know, the features that the road trip planner apps do. So I really want to combine the two. So this is actually something that I would use, that I will use. If this actually works and I can get it up and running and the server doesn't cost me $1 billion, I'll use this and we'll give it away. If you guys want it, go for it. As long as I can afford it, and you know, we'll just keep it running for whoever wants to use it. It just depends on the pricing. We will take into consideration some pricing as we're building this. We're going to make decisions for our database right away. I can tell you already, I know I won't be using SQL Server. Normally I use Microsoft SQL Server. I won't this time, because if I do launch this and start using it, I just don't want to be paying that extra fee for a Microsoft SQL Server license. So I'll be setting this one up with Postgres in order to get, you know, free database, but still with that same level of power that I need. I am not an expert in Postgres, so I'm sure there'll be some issues there that I'll have to run into. But I think I know enough about it. You know, SQL is SQL. I've used it a few times. I just wouldn't say I've used it the 10, 15 years that I've been using SQL Server. So we'll get that all figured out. But just keep in mind, you know, we're trying to balance price with, you know, how much time your boss says you have to build this versus how much time your client says you have to build this versus how much time you want to spend on it and how fast you need an end user to actually get that data. So we're not aiming for perfect. We're aiming for finished product that works well enough within our business rules. And since I'm the client and the customer and the boss on this one, I get to kind of make those decisions as we go. You'll need to make those decisions through your project on what you want to decide and what you want to do. With that said, I think I want to get right into the first day. Today, the first day is going to be a little bit short, so let's call this one episode 0. And then I think we'll just get right into episode 1. I'll just, you know, hit a stop on this and I'll just get started right away recording episode 1, and we'll kind of go from there. I'm pumped up. I want to get moving on this one. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll see you on the next episode, guys.